Pedro Pascal wants out of filming The Mandalorian Season 4. That's what we are hearing from a trusted source that does its homework, and it seems to be an indication of where Star Wars is going. Rudderless, without a leader. Dave Filoni failed with Ahsoka, and now nobody trusts that the Mandoverse movie coming up will be anything more than one big yawn. Yawn, of course. They're the same. Hello folks, and welcome to the channel that Disney dreads every single day. But they don't have to, they just have to make great content, and we will celebrate them once more. It's just too bad they don't seem to want to do that, or perhaps they're not capable. Well, no, I take that back. They've put out some good stuff in the past 2 years. It is just overwhelmed by the bad stuff, unfortunately. Something though, and someone who is definitely not the bad stuff. We've got X-Wing with us today, and he's bringing the right stuff with all the commentary, folks, that you desire. X-Wing, welcome back to the channel.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me back. I feel like it's been too long. We haven't had a good conversation in a while.
Let's do it, though. Let's do it. Let's remind the folks of yesteryear, back when we used to do this all the time. With this article, right here, X-Wing. Straight out of Hola, this by Shirley Gomez. It says, in 2023, the Mandalorian fans enjoyed the third season of the show. After wrapping up, viewers are now looking ahead to the upcoming fourth season. It's almost as if these go in numerical order. However, reports assure that one of the beloved actors will not return to the fourth installment. According to Inside the Magic, and we're going to use some salt here, folks. Lots and lots of salt on this one, but we'll keep reading. It'll get better. Pedro Pascal likely won't be back for the fourth season. It was confirmed during the third season that Pedro Pascal hardly filmed on the set of The Mandalorian and instead lent his vocal talents to the character of Din Djarin. The reports also assure that his body doubles were fully responsible for portraying him in the Beskar armor. Going down. Here's where it gets to the point that I think we can put more credence into. It's also worth mentioning that leading man Pedro Pascal likely won't take part in filming, just like Season 3, due to his commitments with Ridley Scott's Gladiator 2, which is due to begin filming over the next few weeks, and Pascal's commitment to the second season of The Last of Us, which is slated to begin filming in the spring of 2024. And here's where the credits come from. A Bespin Bulletin statement reads, the news of Pascal stepping down comes after the Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists strike ended. That's SAG-AFTRA for those of you out there who are paying attention. And yes, we here on the channel recognize that it's not ended. The ratification process is taking place and crazier things have happened. We'll see what goes down with the strike. X-Wing, where I'm interested in going with this conversation is, don't you find it interesting that Pedro Pascal has other commitments such as Last of Us, Gladiator, and those are more important than Star Wars? Does that tell us something about where Star Wars sits on the pantheon of entertainment today? The power of the franchises. Is it now a lower tier, below Last of Us, below Ridley Scott movies? What does it say?
Well, I think we've been hearing rumors about Pedro Pascal wanting to leave The Mandalorian for a long time. We can go all the way back to Season 2 when we were talking about arguments about Pedro Pascal being kind of a whiny baby on set and being upset about him not being able to take off his helmet and wanting more screen time, yada, yada, yada. Whether there was any truth to that, I don't know. And I'll express my opinions. These are solely mine. These are not the opinions of WDW Pro, but Bespin Bulletin always has great stuff when it comes to Star Wars news. So I do feel like there is a little bit of clarity in this. There's a little bit of levity. There's a little bit of trust to be had because they really do the best they can over there. And I'll be honest with you. Do you blame Pedro Pascal at all? Especially after the situation that happens in Mandalorian Season 3. If I'd have read that script and it was The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, you have one of, if not the only hope-giving aspects of Star Wars in, the past God knows how many years, where we have this awesome character who's making his way through the universe. You're learning more stuff about stuff that's going on in the Clone Wars. We all of a sudden have a Baby Yoda, this species we haven't seen since really, the original trilogy, technically, if you want to call it that. And now you're being replaced. All of a sudden, it's not about the Mandalorian. It's not about Din Djarin. It's not even really about Grogu anymore. All of a sudden now, this is going to be about Bo-Katan. This is going to be about Ahsoka. We're starting to replace this main character with other characters. And beyond that, They put Lizzo and Jack Black in Star Wars. So,
well, let me push back though, X-Wing.
Okay.
If you're Pedro Pascal, you had a hand in doing this. You're part of the cacophony of crazies who ran off Gina Carano and sabotaged the plans of one John Favreau. So is Pedro Pascal not likewise to blame for having jettisoned the big plan, the big roadmap that was supposed to lead up to something exciting down the road?
I would love to say that I could speak intelligently on that, but I honestly have no idea how much power an actor has over a situation like that. What I will tell you is, for the most part, a large portion of the cast of The Mandalorian was absolutely lovely towards Gina Carano. After everything that happened, they were seen at conventions, hugging Gina, just giving all the best they could. Major players in The Mandalorian.
And big props, big kudos to Mr. Apollo himself. Carl was very kind to Gina.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know the interactions between Pedro Pascal and Gina Carano. I will tell you that I don't want to talk bad on the guy, but he seems to be a bit of a Twitter warrior, which I'm never a huge fan of. But I'm not here to talk bad on Pedro. This is more about the Star Wars aspect of it. They just made a huge mistake. And even after everything that happened, for Pedro Pascal to really kind of hang up the gloves for such an important character in Disney Star Wars as the Mandalorian, which I would say was probably their top selling point. It's a big red flag. It's a really big red flag, because for a long time there, that's all Disney Plus had. They didn't care about Rey. They weren't selling Rey toys. They weren't selling Reva toys. They weren't selling the new Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber. None of that stuff was selling. What they had was the Mandalorian and Grogu. And for him to walk away from that should be very indicative of the path that the Mandalorian is taking. And after what happened with Ahsoka, I don't really know what they have right now.
All right, let's key in on Ahsoka then. This is a big point. We have been watching the collapse of Marvel Studios, Marvel Entertainment, the MCU. The media, of course, does not want to call it that. They want to say that this is just a misstep, that it's the result of online bigotry and toxicity. Boy, where was that power and control from the misogynist back when Barbie came out? I just don't understand. They suddenly
it doesn't make sense.
Suddenly they have more power. But going back to being part of reality here, of course, Marvel is looking for a way to be successful. I'm here to tell you that, having watched Ahsoka, I'm convinced that it's even less successful than the Marvels. And so, that is being helmed by Dave Filoni, the creative lead of Lucasfilm. Doesn't go any higher than that. If he's going to be in charge of the Mandalorian movie, the Mandoverse movie, and if it's going to have his characters, you can kind of see why Pedro Pascal would want out of this. I mean, we're watching the Marvels perform, just catastrophically bad at the box office. I'm thinking that a Dave Filoni movie could perform actually worse than that. So why be a part of it? Why not try to get into simply treating this like a cartoon, and you're just a voice actor at this point? Why not?
Yeah, so it's tough for me, because I don't know what the exponent you use is to to make an equivalent number between what happens on Disney Plus and what happens between a movie theater. So it's tough for me to say, how successful Ahsoka is against a hypothetical Star Wars movie that hasn't come out. We haven't got any trailers. We don't know. We couldn't even gauge the hype if we wanted to.
But use this X-Wing. How much interest do you think is in Thrawn after having watched him in Ahsoka now? If you don't have interest in the villain, good luck making the movie happen.
I think there's a couple tiers of Star Wars fans right now. So obviously you have the people who don't know anything about Star Wars. I think to a degree they were partially disengaged with Ahsoka, because there were a lot of things there that didn't pay off for new fans, and also didn't pay off for, kind of original fans. So it was a mishit kind of on both cylinders there. Having said that, I think you could re-peak interest in all of it with a movie, and it would be very much kind of the same thing with The Last Jedi, where you may be able to make a movie that gets a lot of butts and seats and really looks good at the box office, but whether or not it's a good movie, that's I mean, we'll see.
See, I think the next movie out of Lucasfilm is going to fare perhaps worse than Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. I think it's Revenge of the Fan. And look out, Kathleen Kennedy. The panderverse may be a bad omen for how things will go at the box office. But X-Wing, if you are Lucasfilm and if you are determined under Kathleen Kennedy to release another movie before her exit, which one do you think would do better? At this point, a movie about the Dave Filoni characters or a movie about Rey and her continued saga? Which one has a better shot at making money?
So both fit perfectly under the umbrella of Kathleen Kennedy's ultimate vision for Disney Star Wars, which is the Force is female, the ultimate, feminization of Star Wars. I don't think in her brain it was inherently meant to be the destruction of the male characters of Star Wars, but it really did wind up that way. Maybe she is that nefarious. I don't know. I would pick neither if I were Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. First thing I would do is I would go and I would pick a story from the expanded universe. I would hand it off to creatives and give them full creative reign to create a little bit more of an adult story for Star Wars, because I think that's sorely lacking. A lot of people would love to say that Andor and Mandalorian were more of the kind of the adult side of Star Wars. Andor a little more so. Mandalorian Season 3 completely ruined that with Roly Poly Bocce Ball and Lizzo singing and giving keys to the city and all that stuff. But yeah, if it were me, they really need to make a callback to the pillars of Star Wars, which is something that George said consistently, the pillars of Star Wars. So good and evil, the Jedi, the Sith, basic storytelling, if you will.
Well, talking about that basic storytelling,
yeah,
what we've seen, and this may be one of the reasons that people like Pedro Pascal would want out, and I suspect others also are saying, why should we be a part of this? This is turning into, Disney afternoon cartoons from the 90s. The storylines are just terrible. But I suspect that Jon Favreau is one of those individuals who surely has to be looking at what's happened and can't be happy with it. What do you think is going on with Jon Favreau, and why do you think there was such a quality change from seasons 1 and 2 and then going into 3? 3 was tonally completely different. What happened there?
Massively different. I can speculate until I'm blue in the face, but if I really had to give my guess as to what might have happened, I think Mandalorian Season 3, they had a lot of ideas on what they wanted to do, to kind of roll it back a long way. I think with Mandalorian Season 1, they had a really good idea with Jon Favreau and what they were going to do with the Star Wars universe. It was very much reminiscent of Iron Man in the beginning of, really what we know as the MCU today. I think Mandalorian was the Iron Man of the new Star Wars universe that they were trying to make. And they had a really good plan in place. I mean, you saw on that board when they stood up and they announced all of these different things that kind of latched together until we get to this cinematic ending to all of these different things. And then the firing of Gina Carano really unraveled absolutely everything. And I believe that wholeheartedly, because there's a lot that she could have done within that universe to really tie everything together. And you can tell by what's happened after the firing, we've seen this massive drop in quality from the TV shows. And a lot of people will say, well, these TV shows were in production for years before the firing of Gina Carano. That's true. But you have to remember, if they fire an integral character, there are going to be reshoots. There are going to be script changes. There are going to be all of these things. The entire show is based around her character. Correct. Yeah. Rangers of the New Republic, which was canned, by the way. So all of these different shows, I think they suffered. They took a hit because of that. It was this cosmic event that I think a lot of people don't really realize how traumatic it was to the Star Wars universe on a whole. And I think we've been suffering for it for, whatever it's been now, the past 3-4 years because of what happened.
It's terrifying to think that poor Jon Favreau, started off the MCU and was subverted by Victoria Alonso, now with Star Wars, subverted by Dave Filoni. It feels like Dave Filoni is self-inserting his characters everywhere he can and subjugating, taking over the Mandalorian original plot lines. X-Wing, what do you make of this allegation now that we have from Gina Carano that her firing went all the way to the top, that this was a Kathleen Kennedy initiative? In the past, it's been more obscure, and we couldn't quite figure out, did this go up to Kathleen, or was this mismanaged lower, and she just didn't want to step into it? the idea that Gina says that this went all the way up to KK really, makes her into a sinister figure.
Right.
What do you make of the idea that this goes, that this woman could be that petty and this manipulative and have her fingers into affairs at that kind of a level down in Star Wars and Lucasfilm
Well,
without using profanities?
I would say speculation again. A lot of times we really like to make out these executives as just the bad man in the castle, right? The witch in the in the black cloaks and stuff like that. It's entirely possible that that's 1,000% true. And I think obviously in any major decision, especially like something where you have a character planned out for as long as you did as someone like Gina Carano, and I think a lot of normal fans would say, "Who's a minor side character in a TV show?" There were massive implications for a drop trooper from Alderaan who could have been related to Princess Leia to really carry on the story, tie in the the Skywalker saga, all of those different things. To eliminate that character in a roadmap like they had planned out has to be able to get cleared by someone way high up. So if I had to take a guess as to what happened while trying to remain at least a little bit moderate, I think somebody got a bad taste. It went up the ladder. Maybe Kathleen didn't like Gina right off the bat anyways, because she wasn't quite conforming to what they wanted at Disney, or maybe she rubbed a crew member the wrong way by not using pronouns, whatever the case may be.
You don't need an actual strong woman around. That's not allowed.
Exactly. It becomes a little bit problematic when people have their own opinions, especially in an organization like that. So to say that it's out of the realm of possibility that there was a little bit of a personal vendetta all that way up the chain that allowed her to easily make a decision to greenlight a firing like that, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. At all.
What's amazing to me, and I guess this is a life lesson we can all take away, is the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian really had people ready to give Star Wars a chance again.
Oh, there was hope, buddy.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me. We're only, 2-3 years removed from that?
Yeah.
And this is a franchise now that it's even worse than after Rise of Palpatine. And it just goes to show you that, you can disagree with somebody about their beliefs or their worldview or the way that they handle themselves. But if you go smacking around that Jenga tower to take out everybody who disagrees with you, if you want to have this sort of monolithic, puritanical system inside your corporation or inside your family or inside your community or whatever it is, right? If you just start knocking people out of the way and saying, "Oh, we're not going to have this person because they have this belief," or "We're not going to have this person," what actually happens is you just knock down the entire Jenga tower. And so this is what we're watching both with Marvel and Star Wars. They would rather, it started off as Star Wars fatigue. Star Wars fatigue is, we got to have less movies. Star Wars fatigue. We got to have less Disney Plus shows.
The post-Solo era.
Yeah, and apparently it's contagious, X-Wing, because now it's Marvel fatigue, superhero fatigue. We got to get rid of these And the problem is that this industry filled with these wackos and the pundits and the commentary class and the access media and the mainstream media, the corporate press, they would all rather talk about the fatigue of these franchises that they ushered in their destructions. They would rather talk about the fatigue surrounding them than to just admit, "Hey, we messed up. We need to course correct." They would rather watch them die.
Wrong.
Yeah, they would rather watch them die than ever admit that they erred. Final thoughts on the next wing.
It's disappointing more than anything. Hubris has been the death of Star Wars, I would say, more than anything else, whether it be personal or of the studio itself, through the creatives. We've seen horrible fan interactions between, I hate to even bring it up, but, one of the largest Star Wars YouTubers out there, and a creative inside Lucasfilm, all the way to, one of the people
Pablo.
who's on
Poor Pablo.
Poor Pablo. All the way
What's up with these Chilean guys? Pablo and Pedro, man. They just
yeah,
a little acidic.
All the way up to somebody who worked on the show who we know to be, for a fact, a very sweet and loving individual who had no malintent in anything ever said. legitimately witch hunted into, being fired and then shamed publicly on the internet. The biggest problem right now is, I think, a misunderstanding between what the fans actually want and what Lucasfilm thinks they want or thinks they can force them to like. And then fan interactions between the studio as well. We've heard countless times, we don't want to make a park for 40-year-olds. This Star Wars isn't for you. This is for a new generation. And then, you get into creators like Dave Filoni, who I think, to a degree do have good intent when it comes to Star Wars. Absolutely. But they just really don't understand how to do stuff in live action. Filoni, if he stays in, I think, in animation, can still do gangbusters work, good work. But translating into live action takes things way too seriously. He heard George Lucas say he likes Akira Kurosawa. And so a scene in Ahsoka, he's got a samurai dojo and they're wearing, metal wood flip-flops and they're using boken. Like it's too literal. I think we're missing the point. And then when they get called out on it, it's nothing but backlash, and it's our fault for not liking it, not their fault for not making it for us to like it.
I think you're circling around the fact that there is a lack of genius level talent working on these franchises. And certainly there is a lack of individuals receptive to appropriate criticism of any fashion. And that is necessary because even when you're telling a story around a campfire, you have to be knowledgeable. You have to pay attention to your audience. If you're having a conversation, next week, as you and I are having this conversation, we're both paying attention to the way that we speak, the way that we react to each other, and that's informing us, how this conversation is going and where this should go and all of that. And Star Wars feels like a monologue. So does Marvel, and they're no longer listening. They've got their fingers in their ears, and that has not gone so well for them. And folks, I do want to say, to all of you Chileans out there, listen, Chile is one of the most beautiful and fantastic countries on the planet. How did you send us Pablo and Pedro? Oh, well, I guess Argentina sent Victoria Alonso. So.
Hey, I worked with a bunch of Chileans at ski resorts when I was coming up in Truckee, California. You guys rock.
Chile is incredible. Santiago, surrounded by snow-capped mountains, and yet it has palm trees all over the city. It's incredible. We love you, Chile. That's right. All right, X-Wing, you also have a channel that we love. Tell us what's coming up on your YouTube channel out there.
Wonderful question. I'm a Star Wars YouTuber, so that answer is constantly developing as the days go. Generally, for the most part, I do something called the Star Wars Late Night Show. That's basically my only regular show. We try to do it once a week. We hang out, we commiserate, we talk about what has happened, what could have been, and everything else, and just kind of nerd out as fans, and try to find some happiness in the gray cloud that we have around us right now.
Maybe you could send out a ping to your followers every time a High Republic novel sells. That would be something. They're not selling too fast right now. Latest I heard.
You want to talk about the High Republic?
Does anybody really want to talk about the High Republic? No, we definitely will talk about it in the future, but not this time.
Yeah,
folks. If you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. We covet your comments. We care about what you think. Don't forget that the Pro Show is live Thursdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have a massive announcement coming along with a press release. This coming Monday, we will have a special live stream at 4 p.m. Eastern Time here on the channel as we unveil a new thatparkplace.com, which we believe will be the premier place for pop culture, representation, journalism, coverage, analyzing, and everything in between. We'll catch you there. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Clickbait. Fraud. Drama queen. Ugh. I wish there was a channel that was 5 to 6 minute news reads without the drama, frauds, and clickbait that could accurately let me know the current news, providing my crucial context utilizing all the different That Park Place contributors and creators.
Well, stupid. There is. It's the That Park Place YouTube channel, which will be going live real soon, so make sure you're subscribed so you can really stick it to the algorithms.
You're joking.
Nope.